Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly. Our topics this week: streetcar backers want expansion and want it now. City market merchants want more parking more than ever. And the New York Times calls Missouri the shoot me state, plus roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and talk with activist Clay Chastain, whose 10th light rail proposition will be on the Kansas City ballot this November. An earlier plan approved by voters in 2006 was rejected by the City Council as impossible to implement. The current plan would cost about $2 billion and be financed by a sales tax increase for 25 years and a 25-year diversion of some tax money from the bus system. The 40-mile light rail and electric bus system would run from KCI to the Cerner campus on the south side and from Union Station to the sports complex. Joining us to talk about the plan is its creator, Clay Chastain. Clay, it's nice to see you again. It's been a while.
It has.
You have said that if the City Council had implemented your plan back in 2006, Kansas City would be a lot better off now. In what ways?
Well, for instance, in the 90s when I started pushing light rail, Denver was in the same situation Kansas City is in now. Stagnating, no growth, no population growth, job growth, economic development. They started implementing a citywide comprehensive light rail system. Now they have 76 miles of it, a new international airport. In that 20 years that have passed, Denver has boomed in population, job growth, economic development, in a large part behind the new airport and their extensive light rail system that does connect their airport to downtown. So that's what we were trying to propose for Kansas City, and the council rejected that plan even though it was the stated will of the voters. So we have a second chance now to do that. This plan has twice as much funding. It recognizes that the city's not going anywhere, and it's not going to go anywhere unless we build a world-class public transit system.
Do you think the arrival of a streetcar downtown and the drive to expand the streetcar is going to divert attention from your campaign or cause people to focus more on your campaign?
Well, I think the streetcar is great for downtown, and it's what the public's appetite for light rail. And light rail, of course, is a bigger, faster, citywide system that gets you to across town, helps a low-income person get to a job across the city where you can't use a streetcar for that. You're not going to use a streetcar to get to the airport. A low-income person's not going to use it to get to a job. So the streetcar is nice, but we don't want to expand it. That's more glitz structure. It's like a convention hotel, an entertainment district, a new arena. These projects aren't infrastructure that helps the working citizen and the low-income poor person. And we need to focus on infrastructure projects that do that, and that's what this light rail initiative will do.
Clay, some of your critics say you don't get specific enough about where some of the money will come from. You talk about the tax plans in Kansas City, but they don't know where you're going to get the other millions of dollars required.
Well, I'll tell you, Phoenix got $1 billion for their 24-mile light rail system. If Phoenix can get $1 billion, Kansas City can. That's going to put thousands of people to work in this city that need jobs. And furthermore, the taxes that we're going to use, diverting one of the taxes from the bus system, that tax was supposed to be a temporary tax. That's how they sold it to the voters. They will have had it for 20 years by the time we repurpose it. So they kind of deceived the voters, acting like we just need it temporarily. Now they act like they want it for perpetuity. It's far better to dedicate that tax to a light rail system that can improve the bus system, because people take buses to the light rail. Everybody will use the transit system,
Clay,
not just a small minority of people.
Temporary tax is an oxymoron. You know that, don't you?
Well, apparently to the ATA it is.
Since you spend part of your time in Virginia and come to Kansas City on occasion, some people wonder why you have such interest in Kansas City and its light rail future.
Well, number one is I want to return to Kansas City when I'm able to. I right now have full custody of my daughter and a court order preventing me from coming back to Kansas City until she's 18. Meanwhile, I want to get this city moving forward with light rail so that when we move back, we can live along a light rail line and not have to have an automobile. It'll be a more green, prosperous, and transit-oriented city at that time.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so let me ask you a couple of quick questions and you give me a couple of quick answers. Where can people get more information about your plan? Do you have a website?
We're going to have a website. It's under construction. It's kclightrail.org.
Okay. If the plan is approved and construction begins, when can we ride the Chastain Light Rail?
Well, we hope by the time I can come back here in 8 years, the system will be up and running. Everybody will use it. The city will be starting to grow in population, so we have more revenues to take care of the rest of our infrastructure, and we'll be on our way to a more prosperous, bright future.
And you're quoted as saying, if this doesn't pass, it's the last time. You're not going to try again. I know that you have said that before. Are you really serious this time? Is this the last time?
Do I have to divulge my secrets?
Well, you said it in your op-ed piece in the Star.
I said this is an up and down final vote for light rail, but I didn't rule out anything else.
Well, you never will. Clay, good to see you again. Thanks
so
for coming in.
Okay, bye.
That was Clay Chastain, whose light rail plan will be on the November 8th ballot. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Jamika Kendricks is an education activist. Jason Grill is a former Missouri legislator, Democrat, and now a senior advisor with Paris Communications. Annie Presley is an author and publisher and well-known GOP fundraiser. And Patrick Tuohy is field manager at the Show Me Institute in Kansas City, a libertarian think tank. Good to have all of you with us today. Thanks for coming in. Well, let's start by following up on my discussion with Mr. Chastain, get some quick reaction from everyone. Do you think voters will give his light rail plan the go-ahead on November the 8th? We'll start with you.
I am not sure about the voters on November the 8th, but I do think that it will be deemed unworkable again by the council if it is passed.
Are you inclined to vote yes?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it'll pass because it's Clay's deal. I think it had a better chance of passing if it was somebody that was new that was bringing it to the table, but I commend him for trying, but I don't think it'll pass.
Annie.
There's no new real information here, but what we're seeing is that these projects have helped other cities, and I think Clay's tried hard, but he just hasn't been able to communicate crisply enough for people to buy in.
Patrick.
Statistically, streetcar votes fail in Kansas City, but Clay Chastain is the only one who has won a citywide election for light rail.
That's right, that was 2006. Competing with Chastain's plan is the effort to expand the streetcar system from its current 2-mile route to the Country Club Plaza in UMKC. While still in its initial stages, is there any serious doubt it will one day come to fruition? Patrick.
I think there is serious doubt that it'll come to fruition. It's a political football right now. The city council doesn't want the streetcar election coming up against its own interests. I think people kind of have fatigue, and we'll see how ridership survives through the winter.
Annie, isn't this something that the establishment of the city really wants, an expansion of the streetcar system?
The group of people who are for it are wide and varied. I guess the bottom line is we just have to decide if there's an appetite for a new district, taxing district, similar to the one they use downtown.
Only a limited number of people would vote when there is a vote, Jason. Isn't that fairly simple to control?
Yeah, it's very simple to control. I think,
don't you think there will ultimately be approval of an expansion?
Yes.
Maybe not immediately. Hold it off until after the
well, it wouldn't
infrastructure
finalize until,
vote.
2023, right? That's what I've read. So I think it'll go through. I think Kansas City needs it. I think that the downtown streetcar has been a success, and I think it'll continue on to the plaza and it'll get done.
All right. One of the areas hit hard by construction of the first 2 miles of the streetcar was the city market area. Now, first, people had trouble getting there and businesses were complaining. And now that the system is operational, downtown workers and residents are taking advantage of the free parking, therefore making it more difficult for patrons to find parking places. The city says it's working to solve this problem, but Annie, let me ask you, shouldn't this have been anticipated and solved before it began?
No doubt about it. And truthfully, I actually have a condo down there, and it's just been absolute chaos.
How do you like the free parking?
Well,
There's a lot of it in Kansas City, to be honest.
it's actually gone, and I think what's happened is that they just didn't truly understand that this was going to be more of a party bus than anything else, and so lots of people are parking and just getting on the train and riding it around. And then you add on the employees who are using it to go to their jobs, and it's just not what they thought.
Jamika, do you think this should have been anticipated by the city?
Yes, I think we often don't do the work that we should beforehand, like with the research, but I just read that, in the 80s and 90s, there were issues when the River Market was rebranded with traffic. And so I think that should have been taken into consideration. But I am glad that they're asking the people affected by what's happening now to kind of weigh in on solutions for it.
What are they going to do? Are they going to have people go around and ticket vehicles that are there more than a few
I would
hours?
assume so. I think Kansas City, Missouri's pretty good at doing that, aren't they,
Yes.
Mike, with ticketing cars?
I wouldn't know.
But we have a lot of parking in Kansas City. I think surface parking is everywhere in our town. And
But
you go to other
it
cities,
causes
it's not.
problems for merchants in the River Market area,
Yeah,
doesn't
that
it?
is a problem. So I think the city will address that.
Whose responsibility is it? Is it the government of Kansas City or the merchants in the city market area
To enforce parking?
to figure out what to do?
Gosh, you know, it's been known for years that streetcars don't reduce congestion. In fact, they increase congestion, and they don't take cars off the road. So they should have seen that there wouldn't have been any less demand for parking. I think the city planners and probably the streetcar authority bears the responsibility of fixing a problem they created.
Well, Annie, you said you live in that area. What do you expect the city will do now? What do you expect the city should do now to try to alleviate this issue?
Well, every time something's going to be built, we get a notice, a zoning notice. And what I've seen recently are little pieces of property are now going to be turned into paid parking lots. So people are taking advantage of the opportunity to actually make a buck on the people who are going down there. So
Is there no parking for the apartment structures that are in the city market area?
lots of them, the newer ones particularly, have one slot as a general rule and oftentimes need two. So it's not unlike a big city where you got to go and just find street parking.
Yeah, I pay for parking where I live. I mean, it's part of the deal.
Well,
When
you
you live in an
live in a
urban
very
area, you gotta
expensive
pay-
area,
You
we
got to
would
pay for
expect that.
parking, right?
Yeah. All
I
right.
don't pay for parking where I live.
I don't either.
Me either.
All right. The New York Times editorial board labels Missouri as the shoot me state. It comes in reaction to the legislature's override of a Governor Nixon veto. The soon-to-be law allows Missourians to carry concealed weapons without first acquiring any state or local permits and without any mandatory training. It also expands the so-called stand your ground standard of self-defense. So, Jamika, is the New York Times being responsible by writing this editorial or by being somewhat hyperbolic, do you think?
Try not to be emotional with this question. I think with regard to communities of color and black males, absolutely responsible. And I say that because when I first heard about this, my first reaction was I have 3 dark-skinned black males in my life who are very important to me. My father is a 61-year-old, 6'6", 300-pound man. My son is a 16-year-old, 5'11", 150-pound boy. My husband is a 6'1", 200-pound man. And with the things that have been happening lately, what this does is give people a reason to suspect that any of these men that are very important to me, if they are in the wrong place or in an area where people would feel threatened just by their presence, for them to think, well, they're probably carrying because they don't have to get a permit to do that. And then if they're feeling threatened, these people have the right, because they felt threatened, to gun these folks down. And for me, it is very personal, and I am very concerned because I think it does put communities of color, and especially black males, in a bad situation of possibly being gunned down by either officers who are supposed to protect us or people in the community.
But I appreciate your concern and respect your opinion, but these problems that you described are happening before Missouri passed this law.
I agree there are killings that happened before the law is passed, but I think that before the law got passed, well, it's not enacted yet.
No.
But I'm concerned that now, instead of there being an assumption that maybe, he's not carrying, there's automatic assumption that he is. And I don't think before a 16-year-old boy walking down the street that you're going to assume that maybe he had access to a gun and he has it.
Patrick, is this editorial typical of the kind of Eastern elitism that makes Midwesterners kind of crazy?
The idea that people living in New York City would have anything to say on gun violence to the rest of the country is itself laughable. But if you look at since 1991, when the murder rate in this country was at its highest, 26 states have adopted this type of laws. The murder rate is down dramatically. I think it's at the lowest point in 43 years. And if you look specifically at states like Vermont, which have always had this type of legislation, they're in the bottom third of murders. Arizona adopted something like this, and their murder rate dropped by a third. So I understand the histrionics. You want to make an emotional appeal, but the research doesn't back it up.
Did this happen in areas that had the same kind of race issues that we have in St. Louis and Kansas City? Was the murder rate going down? And did it happen in communities of color, or did it only happen in other communities?
I mean, we can look at places like New York City, like Washington, D.C., like Chicago, that have had very rigorous gun control issues, and they are the problem. If we have murder
But
problems,
I'm asking you about the states you talked about that you said had laxed gun control.
Well,
and you
certainly-
said that the murder rate went down. So
Sure.
are these states that have serious issues with racism and classism, and also states that we looked at communities of color?
Nationwide, the murder rate is down, right? So it includes all those areas. Certainly, Vermont does not have that problem.
So the answer is you don't know.
Correct. The answer is I don't know.
Okay.
But I can say that we're not solving the problem in the status quo. We've got these problems in the status quo, and there's no indication that the change makes things change.
Kansas has it.
That's right.
And I don't think there's been a vast increase in shootings and killings
Kansas is a
on the
little more
Kansas
rural
side.
than Missouri.
Well, not Kansas City, Kansas, and not Johnson County,
right.
not rural.
They have a higher gun ownership too in Kansas than they have in Missouri.
Let me read you, as a former state legislator, Jason, a quote from the column and get your reaction. The New York Times says, gun safety cannot be left to state lawmakers beholden to the gun lobby. So I would ask you this question, to whom should it belong?
Well, I think the cities have to have a role in it, Mike. I really do. I think Mayor James.
So you have different laws in Kansas City from city to
Well, I
city?
mean, that's going to happen all the time, but I think the state needs to work a little bit more with their cities and municipalities when it comes to issues of gun violence. I think that needs to happen. I just think it's too partisan in Jeff City right now.
Well, you know,
I mean, it really is partisan right now.
Annie, this doesn't require people take training, but it doesn't forbid people from taking training. And it would seem to me that most people who don't have a gun and buy one would get the training regardless of what state law says.
I've taken that training, and it's actually very helpful and very interesting. And truthfully, this does not change. Creeps who have guns and want guns are just going to get more guns.
I mean, criminals don't care what the law says.
But they already have them, and maybe they're just going to get another one. I don't know. But the safety and the certificate are very, very helpful, just encouraging confidence to use the gun properly.
The question is, do you feel safer, right? Are we feeling safer?
I don't.
I feel the way I've always felt.
Okay.
Will you be more frightened when this law goes into effect?
I will.
A little
Will
bit.
you?
A little bit.
Will you, Annie? You going to be frightened in
I'd like
30
people
days?
to have a little training, Mike, before they have
Well,
guns.
we don't know that they won't have training.
That's right.
We don't know that people who have
So what was
guns
the
now
point of
have been
changing the law?
trained.
We had training before. What was the
well,
point of
I can
taking it
speak to
away?
that. So let's say, for example, you've got an or a concealed carry permit. The problem is if you have open carry, right, you're carrying a gun openly, but it starts raining outside, you put on a coat, you step outside the door, you're breaking the law now because your open carry has become a concealed carry. What we were in fact doing was regulating clothing, not guns. And so what this does is say, let's look at the data, let's look at what's happened in other states, and let's relax the regulation because,
So we
importantly,
take the training away so that when you put your
No, it
coat
doesn't
on,
take it
it's-
doesn't take the training away. It just doesn't require it.
Right,
It doesn't
takes the
preclude
requirement
it.
for training away.
No, you understand. People are allowed to carry openly right now. The matter was, what are we going to do with people who conceal? And so if you had a legal gun but put a coat on, you were now breaking
Okay,
the law.
we're going to have to move on, but I would tell you, and some of you may agree and remember, that this happens every time there's a change. When concealed carry was talked about in both Missouri and Kansas, people were saying this is going to increase violence, and it hasn't. When they talked about open carry, that was going to create crises. They haven't happened. The first presidential debate is set for next Monday, speaking of crises, September the 26th. Both candidates and both candidates' supporters must be recalling how dispositive these debates can be. In 1960, Jack Kennedy's style. In 76, Gerald Ford's slip about Eastern Europe. And in 1980, the one sentence uttered by Ronald Reagan that many believe kept Jimmy Carter from a second term on Pennsylvania Avenue.
There you go again. When I opposed
There you
Medicare-
go again. He had been accused of wanting to end Medicare. If either candidate makes a major gaffe or does poorly in this first debate, can he or she recover? Patrick?
Well, we'll all be watching. I think the
We
ratings
will indeed.
will be very high, and it's kind of as observers of politics, we'll all be interested. I suspect, frankly, that if the two candidates make equal gaffes, it will hurt Hillary more because she is expected to be competent and professional, and it won't stick to Trump because people kind of know he's a loose cannon. But we will watch and find out.
In 1980, Annie, the first debate, the one that we played the excerpt from, was the only debate. And it was about a week before the election, so Jimmy Carter, if he could have recovered, didn't have a chance to do so in another debate. That's not the case this year. what we're going to see Monday is the first of 3. So if somebody does badly in the first debate, does that person have a chance to come back?
I think it just depends on what they do. If Donald Trump has bad hair day, or Hillary,
That's every day, right?
her eyes flutter and there's some issue about her health. But do you recall when George Herbert Walker Bush looked at his watch
Yes, I do.
during the debate? And
92.
most recently, Marco Rubio sucked down a bunch of water
That was a
during.
response to a State of the Union.
Yeah.
when he
Right.
did that.
So it just depends. I think Patrick may be right. It just depends on what it is.
But aren't these candidates pretty well defined, though, Mike?
Right.
Unless it's a huge gaffe, I feel like today's news cycle, they'll be fine. I mean, they can
Style
recover.
points.
Obama recovered in 2012.
Yeah, he did. He had a horrible first debate with
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Romney.
Yeah.
And read Game Change. It's a great book. Talks about how upset his staff was and how he said, Obama, I'm not sure I can do this. And they reassured him. He came back and did a great second and third debate.
I don't think it matters.
Okay, I want
Like-
to ask you this though: which Donald Trump do you think we're going to see? The feisty Donald Trump or the reserved presidential Donald Trump?
There is no reserved presidential Donald Trump, so you're not going to see that. But either way, I don't think it matters, because the people who are undecided are not watching this debate, because there are no third party candidates in there. The people who are going to watch it have already made up their minds. And I think there's very little either candidate can do to piss off the people who are already supporting them.
Jason, as one who has moderated some lower level debates, campaigns for not the presidency, but for the U.S. House and sometimes for city offices, nobody likes what the moderator does and nobody's ever happy with the moderator. What role do you think moderators should be playing in these presidential debates?
Be the referee. Stay out of it as much as you can and try to get to substance.
Well, when you say referee, do you mean jump in and say, now, that's not what you said, Mr. Trump. You were the originator of the birther controversy.
You should maybe not step in that much, Mike, but at least if somebody's saying something completely egregious, that's a complete falsehood, you should probably step in.
But Annie,
and Trump, that might happen. So.
Annie, isn't that the job of the other candidate?
Well, it is. And actually, I think the role of the moderator is really just to make sure it doesn't escalate to the point where it's just a food fight. We don't really need food fight. We need to hear something that's unusual
We
or
wanna watch a
different from
food
them.
fight, though. We all want to see a train wreck.
I'm ready for a little bit more than
It will
that.
be.
I agree with Jamika that a lot of people have made up their mind, but perhaps what's different about this race is people are watching to see which candidate they want to vote against more rather than which candidate they want to vote for. And so that's why a negative portrayal or a screw-up may make more of a difference. But again, we're kind of watching history.
Okay, I
be
want to
made.
ask a final question and do a round table kind of thing, and it has to be fairly brief. I think we would agree that Hillary Clinton is a candidate of more substance in all likelihood than Donald Trump, and that Trump is more stylistic, more of a stylist than Hillary Clinton. So which will viewers pay more attention to, style or substance? Start with Jamika.
I think for Trump, we're going to be wanting substance, and I think for Hillary, we're going to be looking at style because of how you described them before.
But which is more important to the typical viewer?
It depends on the candidate. That's what I think.
Okay.
I think style. It always is about who you like more, who's speaking better, and who you can relate with more. So I'd say style over substance in a debate.
Annie?
It's always been said that people choose based on whether or not they'd like to have a beer with them. So if they emote in that way, that's how it'll come down.
And Patrick, quickly.
I think the beer vote goes Trump.
Yeah, well, style or
Right.
substance?
So
Do you think?
basically she said-
You know, I don't know.
Hillary
There will be an initial reaction, then there will be the second and third day reaction, and those may change.
All right, great. Now we're going to head to the soapbox for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes upend or defend people and events in the news. And we start with Jason.
I'd like to toast the KC Pet Project, the mayor, city manager. They had a press conference this morning about the new animal shelter that hopefully will get built in Swope Park. And there's a lot of need for this in Kansas City. Our animal shelter is only 14,000 square feet. They're over 300% over capacity. They take in every animal that comes their way. And we need this in Kansas City. We have a duty to do this. And I kudos and toasting the KC Pet Project, the mayor, and the city manager for helping put this together.
Patrick.
Well, a toast this week belatedly to the Reverend John McLaughlin, a fellow Boston College graduate, a Jesuit priest, Nixon speechwriter, and of course the founder of the modern political talk show. I had the opportunity to meet John McLaughlin a few times when I attended tapings of the program, and I think his show taught us that we can disagree vehemently without being disagreeable, something I think may be lost in modern politics. While McLaughlin himself may be gone, his contribution to political discourse remains, and I say that with metaphysical certitude.
And I might add that Ruckus was created as a response to what PBS did with the McLaughlin Group, Jamika.
So I am changing my toast, and I am going to toast the students who have followed Kaepernick's example for highlighting the difference between, or the contradiction between, the values we espouse and our actions when we defame victims and justify police killings.
All right, Annie.
And I'm toasting Mr. K, who 100 years ago was born and brought to Kansas City so many opportunities for so many people that they're hard to describe. But without him, we wouldn't have baseball, we wouldn't have Marion Labs, we probably wouldn't be an agribusiness center or pharmaceutical center. He was just an amazing guy, and we need to toast him readily.
Did a lot for the entrepreneurs in Kansas City and the entrepreneurial spirit. Well, finally, here's a toast to conservative columnist John Podhoretz. Appearing on a panel show, he was asked what advice he would give Hillary Clinton for the final 2 weeks of the presidential campaign. His response: don't cough and don't fall down. And that's Ruckus for this week. Good advice. That's Ruckus for this week. We're back next Thursday at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.
Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.